Welcome back, everyone. No matter where you are, no matter what time it may be, I hope y'all are doing well out there. Tonight's upload is built around one simple idea: curiosity. We all know about curiosity and how it killed the cat. People hear the stories, the rumors, the warnings. They read about places they're told to stay away from. But something in them still wants to see it for themselves. And sometimes they find out why those stories exist in the first place. Every single encounter you'll hear in this upload tonight came from someone who went looking for something they shouldn't have. Before we get started, if you're listening and you've had an encounter of your own and would like to share it here on the channel, just reach out to me and send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. My email address will be linked in the description below the video. I want to thank you legends for being here and for continuing to support the channel. It truly means a lot. I couldn't do this without y'all. Now let me stop my pointless, corny ramblings. Yeah. Everyone lock in, and let's begin. Grab a drink. Lock your doors and windows. Hit the lights. And let's get started. Hey, Reels. My name's Matt, and this happened in June of 2017 near Baldwin, Michigan, along one of those sandy back roads that cut into the Manistee National Forest. I'm not a big believer in cryptids or anything like that, but my girlfriend at the time was obsessed with all those late-night podcasts about Dogman sightings up here. She'd heard about a supposed hotspot off a trail near Wolf Lake and decided it'd be fun for us to camp there one weekend. I told her all this crap was just internet hype. Half the YouTube videos about the area were obviously fake. But we were both off work and needed to get out of town, so I said fine. I figured I'd show her there was nothing to be afraid of. To prove all this was fake and for attention-seeking purposes only, once and for all. We parked at a small pull-off just past where the pavement ends, and you can't miss it. There's a faded green DNR sign and a fire road that drops toward the river. We set up a small dome tent about 100 yards off the trail. We cooked some brats over a propane stove and spent the first few hours joking about all those sightings. Around 10:30 at night, it got dead quiet. I heard no sounds, no frogs, no bugs. The temperature dropped insanely fast. I remember seeing my breath in the flashlight beam, which should not have been the case. We heard what sounded like footsteps in the sand. Not far away either. I would guess no farther than 30 feet. I turned the light towards the sound and caught a glimpse of something. Just a dark shape that quickly shot out of view. She asked me, "Did you see that?" I tried to laugh it off. Said it was probably just some wildlife cutting through the area. Something curious of us being there. But the steps didn't sound like any animal, and they didn't come in pairs. There was a rhythm to them like a person walking around. About 10 minutes later, we heard the same crunching sound circle around the tent. Every time I pointed the light, it would stop. When I turned it off, the walking would start up again. I finally said, "That's it. I'm done with this." I unzipped the tent, stepped out barefoot onto the sand, light in one hand and a machete in the other. At first, I didn't see anything. Then I realized what I thought was a fallen log was actually something crouched down at the edge of the clearing. The flashlight caught the shape enough. The curve of a back, two pointed ears, the way it slowly turned its head towards us. Its eyes were a dull orange. They were lower to the ground than you'd expect from something this size, but like I said, I think it was crouched down low, trying to stay hidden. My girlfriend whispered my name from inside the tent, and that sound seemed to snap it out of whatever it was doing. It stood up completely, tall enough that the beam hit its chest, then its neck, then the underside of its jaw. I didn't wait. I dropped the light and yelled for her to run. We grabbed what we could and made for the truck. We left everything else behind. When we hit the main road, I looked in the rearview mirror and saw the light from the dropped flashlight still glowing in the woods. Something moved past it, blocking it out for a second like a shadow cutting through the beam. We kept going and did not stop until we hit Baldwin. We spent the night in the truck by a gas station. I went back the next morning, and mostly to prove to myself there was nothing out there. The flashlight was nowhere to be found. The tent and the cooler were still there, untouched. I know how this sounds. I've heard all the comments before. I've camped in that forest my whole life. I've seen bears, coyotes. You name it, I've encountered it at one point or another. I even had a run-in, a very close call with a mountain lion once near Wellston. None of them move like this thing did. None of them stand like that either. I still tell myself I don't believe in dogmen, but I know what I saw out there wasn't anything that belongs in those woods. But if I'm being a truthful person, which I feel like this is the best time to do so, I tell myself I don't believe so I don't have to face the reality that these things are real. It's very hard to swallow. Anyway, thank you for your channel, and thank you for letting people like me get these things off of their chest. Much love, brother. Matt, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Reels. I chose to send this in because I've heard you read a few stories from around Land Between the Lakes. I've never heard one quite like what happened to me and my friend Terry back in April of 2018. We both grew up in Murray, about 20 minutes south of the LBL line. We'd been hearing stories about the beast since high school. You know how it goes. Everybody knows somebody who swears they saw something up there, but nobody's got anything to prove it. One Friday night, Terry came by with a couple of cigars and said, "Let's go check out the old service road near Hematite Lake. It's outside the park boundary, so we're not breaking any rules." I figured, why not? We weren't drinking, we were just bored. We drove his Tacoma up past the last house on the county road and parked at the gate marked Maintenance Access. There were tire tracks on the gravel, so it didn't look off limits. We walked about half a mile in with flashlights. Of course, we were both talking complete trash about how people make stuff up for clicks. It was one of those spring nights that feels like summer already. It was humid, the frogs were going crazy, everything was alive. Then, like someone hit a switch, all the sound just got sucked out, even the crickets. Terry noticed it first. He told me to listen. That silence was heavy enough that it made the hair on my arms stand up. I remember trying to play it cool, trying to come up with every rational reason I could, telling myself it was probably a pack of coyotes nearby. But inside I felt that weird pressure in my chest and in my gut, like when someone's watching you. We started hearing something walking around. It was pretty steady movement on the gravel, very clear, you could hear it perfectly. This wasn't imagination, this was something walking. It was coming from the bend ahead of us. I hit my light and saw a flicker of quick movement, and it jolted and ran behind a tree. This thing, whatever it was, when the light hit close to it, it acted like the light was going to catch it on fire. It was something dark. It leaned completely out of view. I remember Terry saying something like, "That was tall." We stood there waiting for someone to call out, maybe a hiker, a trespasser, anything human. But nothing came. Just that silence. Out of nowhere, with no warning or sounds at all, this monstrosity stepped out into view. It was about 35, 40 yards up the road, right in the middle of the bend. I had my light hit square on its chest, and the light lit up fur across the shoulders and chest area. It stood upright. It wasn't slouching, it wasn't crawling, it's just standing there like it owned the damn place. Its head was something out of a nightmare. It was absolutely huge. It looked like it was too big for the body. The ears were high, the snout was long and skinny. When it would turn slightly, the light hit its eyes in such a way that they glowed a gold color. I never saw it blink, not once, even when the light was directly in its face. Now, at this moment in time, Terry started backing up and tripped on some gravel. When he did that, the thing flinched, and then it moved. It just stepped off the road and went into the trees. It was like watching a shadow disappear behind a curtain. We tried to be quiet and not speak until we made it back out. Both of us were breathing like horses, and Terry threw the truck in reverse, turned around so fast he nearly backed into a tree. We didn't talk about it much afterward either. You'd think we would have told everyone, but honestly it felt personal, like we'd seen something we weren't supposed to see together, like it was a secret that we should keep. It's a very weird thing to say that, but it's just how I felt. A few weeks later, we went back in the same spot during the day. The road looked normal. You'd never know anything strange happened there. But then we reached the same bend, and I remember Terry saying, "Don't you feel it? Like it's watching us even now." I laughed back then, but between you and me, I haven't been back out there. I still drive around that area, sometimes for work, and every time I pass that specific turnoff, my stomach starts to turn. Whatever's out there, we saw it, and it knew that we weren't supposed to be there, or at least that's how it acted. I think it just wanted to make sure we left the area. I don't know why it claims that area, but it can have it. My portion. I'll give it away. I'll never go back out there. You can say these things aren't dangerous, they're not aggressive. As long as you don't harm them, they won't come after you. You can say all these things until you see one yourself. I bet your mind will change a bit. I can't speak for anyone else, but the thing I saw could tear a human apart in seconds. It was the biggest living, breathing animal I've ever laid my eyes on, walking on this side of heaven, or hell, however you want to look at it. Anyways, Reels, I've went off on a wild tangent here. I'll go ahead and end it because that's all I got. Jay, Murray, Kentucky. Reels, a big hello from down Texas way. I won't give my name, but I live just north of Houston. What I'm about to tell you happened in October of 2019 in the Sam Houston National Forest. It was near New Waverly. It wasn't supposed to be anything serious, just a quick weekend project for a YouTube channel some friends and I were starting called Beyond Belief, Texas. We'd planned to make short videos visiting haunted or cryptid locations. Basically, what we were doing We were poking fun at them and people that watched them, and see if we could explain what people were actually seeing. We were sort of debunkers, if you will. At the time, the Dogman sightings around the forest were all over Reddit and Facebook groups. There were supposed reports of glowing eyes, howls, even a few people saying they'd seen a wolf walking upright near the Lake Conroe side. I'd been to that forest hundreds of times for camping and hunting. I never saw anything weird, so we decided it would make a perfect episode 1. Before you go looking, there is no episode 1. There were 3 of us, me, and we'll call my 2 buddies, Lewis and Bryce. We packed light, 2 cameras, a GoPro, and a single LED spotlight that ran off a truck battery. That thing was brighter than the sun. The plan was to drive one of the Forest Service roads after dark, film some reactions, and call it a night. Around 9 p.m., we turned off FM 1375 onto a side road that cuts east towards the lake. No traffic, nothing out there. The air was still a bit humid from a storm that had passed earlier in the day. The mist was starting to form over the ditches. We parked where the road split and set up the camera. I remember joking around and laughing, saying, "Cue the ominous music," while Bryce filmed me holding a flashlight. About 10 minutes into filming, we heard something crack off to our right. This wasn't a twig. It sounded like a limb being snapped, like a toothpick. Lewis panned the camera toward it, still laughing. He said, "There's your Dogman, boys." Nothing showed up on the screen, but that's when the forest went completely quiet. Then came this growl. It was deep enough that it rattled my entire body. It is hard to describe this sound. It wasn't loud, it was just low. It was like it was close, but holding back. I remember Bryce saying, "I hope we caught that on audio." Lewis shined the light where the sound came from, but we saw nothing but trees and brush. I told him to sweep it slower. The light stopped on something grayish and standing statue still. It was just inside the tree line. For a second I thought it was a tree trunk, until it turned its head. 2 amber reflections blinked at us from about 6 feet off the ground. My buddy Bryce immediately giggled a bit and said, "Who knew we were coming out here? That's someone in a mask." But his voice did crack about halfway through. You could tell this wasn't a human at all, even in a mask. It took 1 step forward, and the stride was too long for a human. You could see the shape of the head with ears, snout, and a neck that was thicker than its skull. Lewis dropped the light, and it hit the ground face down. Everything went completely black, except for the little red glow from the camera. I could hear Bryce cussing, trying to find the truck keys, and Lewis was breathing heavy like he was about to throw up. I turned to grab the light, and while I was bent over, something moved through the brush. Fast. I caught the flash of movement out of the corner of my eye like something crossed the road behind us. I just yelled, "Everyone in the truck." We all piled in, slammed the doors, and killed every light. No one spoke a word for about a minute. The only sounds I remember hearing faintly was some rainwater dripping off the trees and our own breathing. We started hearing sounds again, and then a thump against the rear quarter panel. Just one big thump, like something smacked it with a large hand. That was it for us, and Bryce started the truck and floored it back toward 1375. The spotlight cable got yanked loose and the wire snapped against the fender as we tore out of there. When we hit the highway, we were completely gone. No one dared to even look back. Back home, I watched the camera footage frame by frame. The growl's there, clear as day. And right before Lewis drops the light, you can see the edge of a shape, but it's not clear enough to be definitive at all. It's just something there. Someone would say it's a tree or something else, maybe an animal, but I know what I saw. I just wish that there was more proof on this footage. It's only visible for half a second before the image goes dark anyway. And as for the growl, yeah, sure, I can send it to you, but you know what people are going to say. They're going to say we were skeptics in the beginning and making jokes. One of us probably faked that, so it's just pointless. You'll just have to take my word for it. If not, then there's not much I can do about that. We argued for a week about whether to try and upload this. In the end, we decided it was best if we didn't. Not because we were scared of ridicule, because none of us could agree on what we saw. Lewis said it was a bear with mange. Bryce swears it had to be a person. And I just say now, I don't know. Needless to say, our YouTube channel idea died the very same night that it started. I do have the SD card somewhere. I think it's locked in a drawer, but I've never watched it again. And before everyone starts screaming and ranting and saying we want to see it, prove it, we want to hear the growl, we want to see the footage, I don't owe anyone anything. I'm just telling you what happened. I still myself don't really know what I believe. All I know is for me to put that footage out, there would be specific locations shown in the video, not to mention our faces and other things I don't want to share with the public, especially involving something like this. To be honest, thinking this is real, seeing it yourself, me personally, I'm more afraid of the agencies than I am the beast. So I think for now, respectfully, I'll keep the card where it is. Maybe one day it'll be necessary to pull it out and go over it again and see what could be useful. Until then, you'll just have to take my word. Or don't. Go out there for yourself. See what you can find. But you better take a gun and a few people with you. My name is Doug, and yes, that's my real name. I've lived in southern Wisconsin most of my life, and I've been hunting the Kettle Moraine area since I was old enough to pull a bowstring. My dad used to call it our church, and I guess that stuck. I'm 51 now, and after what I saw in October of 2020, I can't even think about stepping foot in those woods without wondering if it's going to be my last trip. It was the middle of bow season. It was a calm, overcast day. The air felt thick and carried sound forever. I was hunting a stretch of north of Eagle, off an old trail that winds up a ridge line overlooking a swamp flat. This spot was perfect for watching deer move between bedding areas. I parked my truck just after daylight, hiked in with my climber stand, and set up about 20 feet high in a hickory tree. Everything was quiet. It was perfect. Around noon, I hadn't seen a thing except the ever so loving, annoying squirrels that you have to deal with, so I decided to stay through the evening. It was too nice a day to leave early. Around 4:30, I noticed how quiet it had gotten. The woods out there are never silent. There's always a breeze, a crow, something. But it went still like somebody muted the entire world. That's the moment that I started hearing something that changed my life. Footsteps coming from behind me on the ridge. My first rational thought was this was another hunter. I leaned out and didn't yell, but called out loud enough they could hear me. And I said, "Hey, someone back there. Is someone back there?" I got no answer. But the movement did stop. It started moving again a few seconds after that, and it angled toward my tree. I wish I would have stayed quiet because the first sets of steps it was moving away from me. But once I made my presence known, it made a beeline in my direction. As it got closer, I noticed how heavy the steps were. I stayed still. I had my bow in my lap. Whatever it was stopped a little ways behind me. I turned as slow and as quiet as I could. At first, all I saw were the trees and the underbrush. Then one of those tree trunks that I was staring at, the base of a tree, or so I thought, moved. Now, when you see an animal that you mistake for a tree trunk, that is something that cannot be easily explained away. You can't deny it. It was standing behind a big oak tree, leaning out just enough that I could see one shoulder and part of its head. It had extremely dark brown fur, and it looked very coarse. It was almost black where the shadow hit it. Remember I said I'm between 15 and 20 feet up. I felt like this thing, whatever it was, its arms were so long and skinny. It was so tall. If it would have stood directly under my stand, it could have reached straight up and grabbed the footrest of my stand. And that math just didn't sit right in my head. I stayed still, trying to process all of this. The thing leaned out a little more, and that's when I saw an ear. It was pointed, sitting high on the head. Then that eye was a mix between amber and green. It was catching what little light there was left. It blinked once, and only once. I tried not to make any sounds. I was scared, sure, but mostly just locked in place. The amount of things running through my mind at that moment kind of makes everything a blur. It felt like if I moved, it would know exactly where I was. After what felt like a full minute, it just moved back behind the tree and disappeared down the slope without making a sound. I didn't hear a twig snap, no leaf crunch. I don't know how something that size could move through the woods that quietly, but it did. I waited until it was almost dark before climbing down, and that was the longest half hour of my life. My hands were shaking so bad I nearly dropped my release. I didn't see it again, but the next day I went back. I stopped at the same spot and looked at the tree it had stood behind. I had to see exactly how tall this thing was. The lowest branch was easily taller than me. Whatever that thing was, it was huge. It had to be, from the ground to the top of its head, at least 9 or 9.5 feet tall. I've hunted that same ridge for 30 years. I know black bears move through from time to time, but I've never seen a 9-foot-tall black bear, and I've never seen one that has a head that looks like a wolf either. And honestly, a bear can stand and take steps here and there walking upright, but they can't do that for long distances and move around trees and not make a sound. And I don't know about you, but I've never seen a bear with pointed ears. I don't care what anyone says. That wasn't a bear. Now, I saved the craziest part of this encounter for the last. 2 years prior to my encounter, I let one of my close friends hunt in that spot. Took him out there, showed him where to go, told him to hunt there. It was a good spot. I didn't hear from him for about 2 weeks. After I finally got a hold of him, he was shaken up pretty badly. He proceeded to tell me how he saw something strange out there. Something stalked him, something big. Something chased him out of the woods. He told me it was an unsafe area and he didn't know what that was. He thought it was some kind of crazy person out there trying to harm him. He warned me, told me not to go back there. I thought he was crazy. I should have listened. My life would have turned out differently. I wouldn't be here now typing this. I wouldn't wake up in the middle of the night with sweats and nightmares. I wouldn't be scared and worried every time I go hunting now. Ignorance is bliss. But once you realize what's out there, there's no more rest. There's no more ifs or maybe. You know. And that is a fact that is very hard to live with. Thanks. Doug, Waukesha, Wisconsin. Hey, Reels. I live outside of Johnson City, Tennessee. I'm into urban exploration. Old hospitals, schoolhouses, anything forgotten. My name's Cody, by the way. I'm not someone who's chasing ghosts. I don't believe in things like that. I just like places that time quit caring about. In April of 2021, that curiosity took me somewhere I wish I'd left alone. My friend Travis told me about a collapsed fire tower up near Unica Mountain. It's technically in the Cherokee National Forest, but you can get there on a service road if you've got four-wheel drive. He said a lot of locals call it the hanging tower because the top section is still dangling from the frame after a windstorm a few years ago. Online forums mention hikers hearing howls in the area, seeing strange things. But around here, everything howls, so I didn't much worry about that. I just wanted to see the tower. One of the biggest mistakes of my life. We left about an hour before dark. The road up there's narrow and full of switchbacks. It will make you pray nothing's coming down. By the time we reached the clearing, the sun was just an orange strip through the trees. The tower stood maybe 40 feet tall, rusted half to nothing. The cables were struggling when the wind hit. This thing was bad. It was a safety hazard, really. We parked, killed the lights, and started filming a short walkthrough on Travis's phone. He was trying his best to narrate, saying something like another piece of forgotten Tennessee history, when I noticed how the woods sounded off. It caught my attention quickly. I've spent a lot of time in the woods. It's not unusual for that to happen sometimes. But this was different. This wasn't like a predator close. This was a lot heavier, a lot more dead, if that makes sense. I told him to keep quiet for the audio. That's when we both heard something breathing very heavily. It was deeper and slower, and it was coming from somewhere behind the tree line. We both stopped and looked at each other, and at the same time we both said, "Bear." But why would a bear breathe like that? They usually try to stay hidden. We turned toward the truck, and there was some sort of movement. I don't have a full description, or I can't tell you exactly what it was. It was just movement. I saw something move where there should have been nothing. It was a silhouette. It was something down on all fours at first, like a normal animal. And that's when it started rising up behind a pine. The shape of a head, shoulders, and two long arms braced against the tree. The way it moved didn't look like climbing. It was more like it unfolded itself upright. The base of that pine tree had to be easily over 2 feet across. This thing was sticking out, at least, a foot on each side of that from behind it. That tells you how big and how wide the shoulders were. Something sticks out in my mind. I remember the sound that metal tower made. One of the hanging cables started ringing, vibrating from the wind or maybe from the movement in the trees. That tone was high and sharp. It cut through everything else. That thing moved again, and I caught the reflection of the eyes from the parking lots on the truck. They were level with the halfway point of the tower. That put them maybe 12 or 13 feet up. Travis told me to get in the truck, but neither of us moved, even after he said that. It felt like if we broke that stare, this thing was going to come after us. As I'm looking at this thing's eyes, I could feel like it could see inside of me, like it knew everything I'd done in the past, everything I was going to do in the future. It's a damn bad feeling I can't really describe. It's like it could look into my soul, my very being. And I will say, after that happened, I haven't felt the same. I feel like it actually done something to me. Anyway, all of a sudden those eyes just blinked out, like it closed its eyes or turned away. We heard something crashing through the woods going away from us. It sounded like someone driving a truck through there. I mean, this thing was ripping trees down as it went. I've never heard anything like that. As soon as we heard that, we both opened the truck doors, and when the dome light came on, it felt like we were standing on a stage with the spotlight on us. He dropped the phone, getting in the truck, and we never went back for it. The drive down was pure switchback and panic. Every curve we thought we'd see that thing behind us or it would cut us off. When we finally hit the main road, we headed back to town as fast as we could. And I'm sure everyone's wondering about the phone. Yes, we went back to get the phone. It was not the next day, but the day after. We found it lying in the mud 10 feet from where he dropped it, where we were parked. The screen was cracked, but it still worked. The last video plays fine up until about the 30-second mark, about when all that happened. There's a faint metallic hum that cuts out all the sound, and the screen kind of glitches like the video itself was damaged. It was the same sound that tower made. After that, the audio just stops. Just dead air until the video cuts off. We haven't been back. People online occasionally still talk about that tower. Some say it finally came down last winter. I don't care if it did. Whatever was standing behind it that night doesn't need a landmark. It already knows where to find us if it wants to. As human beings, what I saw with my own eyes, I don't care what you have. We don't stand a chance against something like that. That is something straight from the pits of hell. A true monster of the woods. Everyone please, carry some protection. Whether it'll help or not, at least you'll have some sort of chance. I know now I carry a firearm every time I go out. I won't leave the house without it. As they say, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Thanks. Cody, Johnson City, Tennessee. Friends, legends, family, if you made it this far, thank you for being here. Every encounter that I just read carried the same message. Sometimes the truth doesn't need proof. Sometimes the silence itself is enough. If you enjoyed this upload, don't forget to hit the like button. Share it with a friend who'd enjoy this content. and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It only takes a second, and it really helps out with the algorithm. Before I end this, I do want to thank all of these individuals for reaching out to me and sharing their encounters. As for the claims of having video and audio footage here and there, if anything like that is ever sent to me, you guys will be the first to see it. I can guarantee you that. That being said, I can't force anyone to send it. They have to be willing. So if anyone changes their mind and I receive any footage or audio clips, I will upload them with the next video. Legends, all y'all stay safe out there. Always trust your instincts. They'll keep you alive. And I've said this numerous times in the past, and I will continue to say it until my last breath. I've seen these things myself. I don't go looking for them. I don't recommend anyone goes looking for them. But you're all adults. I can't tell you what to do and what not to do. All I can do is give you my advice. From one person to the next, I care about your safety. Please, do not go looking for these things. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. I love each and every one of you. Until next time, my friends. Watch over your loved ones. Keep your head on a swivel. And as always, good night.